and you put your cursor on your own screen.
Well, good evening, everybody. I am the moderator for this evening, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you all at this online event of European Women of Volt at Volt Europa. We would like to give you the opportunity to meet and expand your network with women who are active in our political movement. My name is Zsuzsanna Szüle. I come from Hungary, but have been living in the Netherlands for about 3 decades. And I consider my identity as European, and I'm dedicated to the issues related to diversity and inclusion. We have speakers from different EU member countries and states. Let me take you through the agenda for today's meeting. First, we will start with a keynote speech by Francesca, and then there will be an interview by Marcella and Marian. The session that will follow will be interventions of various women that are politically active. They will present their views about the role of women in politics in a plenary session that will last for about 1 hour. Please place your questions in the chat, which will be continuously monitored, and will reply to as many as possible. After the plenary, we'll pause with a short intermission, followed by breakout sessions. These will give you at least half an hour of open discussions with our speakers or facilitators on proposed topics. We'll close with a plenary session again, where we'll listen to the feedback from the breakout sessions. We are planning to end our event around 9 p.m. One more important aspect of our event: the plenaries are being live streamed and recorded to be placed on YouTube. The breakout discussions are closed, so they will be neither streamed nor recorded. During the course of the event, we'll place 3 times a form in the chat box, in case you were interested to become a member, or as a member of Volt to become more active. But this is totally up to you. And now, please let me shortly introduce our first and keynote speaker. Francesca Romana D'Antuono. She's from Italy, works in Berlin, and she's co-president Volt Europa. She's an engaged activist for social equality and an experienced team leader. Professionally, pharmaceutical marketeer, and a multilingual published author. Francesca, the floor is yours.
Many thanks for this kind introduction. It's great to be here. I see so many names on the screen, some that I know, most that I don't know, which is great because I'm looking forward to meet all of you in the breakout sessions. It is my pleasure to be the keynote speaker during this occasion. I want to thank the European team, Women of Volt, for the effort of organizing this event, and all the many female colleagues that every day engage in the fight for a gender balanced world. But then what does it really mean, a gender balanced world? We want balance in business, in STEM, in pop culture representation, in historical contribution, and of course, the battle for which we're here. We want balance in politics. But to be frank, when I first became active in politics, I did not think about doing that as a woman. I thought of doing that for myself because I love my community and I felt like it was about time to engage and instead of complaining, giving back to the community. But then when I did engage in politics, I started my journey to become more and more aware of how urgent and important it is the fight for representation. Because whether we like it or not, everything is political, from deciding whether or not the street that brings you home is sufficiently lit, to deciding that menstrual cycle products are not reimbursed from the healthcare system, from educating our fathers, our sons, our brothers, our friends, that no means no, to understand that maternity is a choice, not an obligation. We don't owe that to anybody. So during the course of this event, you will hear a lot of stories and you will learn a lot of astonishing figures and facts about women's conditions around Europe and around the world. I also hope that you will talk to each other in breakout rooms and that you will get to know each other, and possibly you will find tonight your allies, your sisters, your brothers. As for me, I will briefly share a little piece of my story with you. And that is the story that brought me to realize that, yes, my political engagement had to do also with the fact that I'm a woman. So the story begins when I became pregnant last year. Two things struck me by that time. So number one, in my life, I've also dated and loved other women. So when I became pregnant, I was astonished by the fact that very rapidly, a lot of people took the conclusion that, of course, it was obvious that then I ended up being with a man and having a kid. And you know why? Because I like high heels, because I like cute dresses, and because I like makeup. But I reject that. That the way you look does not define who you are, does not define what you want, does not define what you can achieve, what you can do, what you desire, and what you can do with your life. So take number one for me, representation is so important. Women belong every place they want to be. They are all forms, all shape. The way you look does not determine what you can do, both in your private and in your public life. Number two, when I became pregnant, a variety of people felt the need to give me unrequested comments and opinions about how I was conducting my life, how I was behaving, how my body looked like, even positive comments, but really unrequested comments sometimes, and what was expected from me as a mother. And that happened also when I decided to candidate as co-president of Volt. So my the person who introduced me, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. As said, I am co-president of Volt, but that happened very recently. So it's 2 months now. So when I candidated, I was still pregnant. I gave birth during the electoral campaign. That was crazy. So when I decide sometimes, but behind my back, most of the times, that I simply could not do it. And don't get me wrong, it is extra hard sometimes. I know that there are other mothers here that share this burden with me. I see Marcella, and I know that sometimes we do calls together and we're like with our kids in one hand, with the coffee in another hand. It's super hard, but still, nobody can tell you what you can or cannot do, because that is entirely up to you. Up to you, of course, but also up to politics. Up to how good we will be in building a society that supports women. Because make no mistake, I am, and I'm sure that a lot of you are also a privileged woman. I'm white, I was born in a strong economy country, I could study and educate myself. I had all the means, economic and cultural means, to succeed. But this, for me, is a reason to even more engage in politics and give back to the community. I want to make sure that other women get the same opportunities. So we're here today for ourselves, but also for those who don't yet have a voice. I trust that each and every of you will take up the challenge to become politically active, to become very vocal, and to make sure that we build room for ourselves and also for the women in our community. I wish you all a great meeting and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Francesca. You are a real activist. I really like that. Great. Thank you so much. The following agenda item is Marcella Valkova and Marian Mourits. Marcella is going to interview Marian, but first I would like to introduce them. So Marcella is from Prague, but is working in Brussels. She's co-lead European Women of Volt and she was candidate for the European elections in 2019. Presently, she's working at the European Commission and she has a very complicated job there, elected member of staff representation to the local staff committee. So, Marian is co-lead Women of Volt Netherlands. She's a real feminist too, member of Volt since 2019, co-lead Women of Volt the Netherlands since 2019 together with Kathrine Kloostermans. Professionally, she's professor in gynecologic oncology at the University Medical Center in Groningen. Please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. And I would like to thank also for this powerful speech by Francesca, because I very much share what you have shared with us, especially about being a mother and taking up an extra mile in your life and becoming politically active. So I just would like to start with something completely a little bit different. I would like to talk about the situation actually that we have been experiencing for quite a long time involved. We don't have enough women, and we have been doing our utmost to attract more women. And this is also this event today where we would like to inspire you, and I hope that you will join us later. But let me start a little bit with some numbers. We have currently only 23% of women, and of course we are not very diverse, which is quite sad, but we are doing our best to attract more women from different backgrounds. And we hope that by the end we will have 30% if you that you are here will join us and join the forces, and we will become a strong network. And I would like to a little bit talk about this, what has changed in Volt Netherlands. We have here today Marian, who will share with us what they did, although they are not still a chapter that has 50-50. They are one of the most successful chapters of Volt, and they have the most women. So I would like to ask you, so how was it at the beginning? Did you struggle, or was it easy to attract women? Were you somehow different than other chapters or than the European level, or did you have a lot of difficulties at the beginning as well?
Thank you, Marcella. Dear people, well, we are struggling as hard as all the other European countries. We have the same issues as all the Volters in the EU. And although we did manage to get into parliament with 2 women and 1 man, women are still in the minority, and also in the Netherlands, only 23% of the members is female. So after the elections of Volt Netherlands, we grew rapidly and more men became member than women. And so we declined from, I think, 26 or 27% to 23% now. So we have more women, but also many, many more men. And women become member less often than men, but they also leave the party more often than men. And I think, and we think that there's a reason for that. So that is why we organized the Women of Volt event last May of this year after the successful elections, and that's the similar event as we have now.
So that was basically how you managed to attract women. Could you tell us actually how did you do that, and what was the result of this event?
Well, there was an event that we had. I think we had about 200 attendees, so we had a lot of women attending, and we had a bell team, a call team after the meeting. And women could send an email if they wanted to become active, like you said today. And apparently there was a need for it, because we had 85 women sending us an email, please call us. And a lot of those women are active now.
Yes. Maybe I can ask you a question with that. So do you think that actually the communication, the way you talked, the way you approach women made a difference? Because this is sometimes, very often we hear that the language is very important, because not all women have to be very strong and they have to be like men if they want to go to politics. So what do you think that you made some change?
Yeah. And that's a good point. I think that's an important point, because women are a little bit more hesitant than men to become active, and so we adapted our language accordingly, and invited them just to enter and have a look, and maybe just be a listener instead of an active member. And I think that helped a lot of women to start just become part of a group. And what also helped is to call them and have a chat for about a half or an hour. And so reaching out to women is one of the key success factors to enter women into the party. Because
I understand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry. So what I remember, and I think it's very important part, that you have actually created a concept within Volt Netherlands, how to actually increase the number of women. So could you briefly introduce the main points and the main areas what you worked on, and how you actually assign this to women?
Well, we developed the concept of a goal tree. Kathrine and I, we decided to focus on only 3 goals to start with: visibility, empowerment, and policy. And after all those women entered, we had 3 teams, all with 2 team leads. And we asked those women whether they wanted to be part of one of those 3 groups, depending on their expertise and where they wanted to be active in. Some women wanted to be policy writers, others wanted to coach or to mentor women. And so we put women in places where they wanted to make a difference. And I think that helped. And what we also communicated, that gender equality is our main goal now, but diversity in all other aspects is also something we want to focus on later on. But we started with women first, because we are not a minority. We want to become, half.
Yes, exactly.
Gender equality first, yeah.
Exactly. So you want to become gender equal chapter, and you have a lot of work still to achieve that. But I just wanted to make a comment on this, that in fact, every woman actually can have a voice, and it can be different ways how they can express it. It can be, not every woman has to become a politician. We have a lot of women that have a lot of skills that they can share. They can support the women that they will be running. So when actually you have created all these different groups where women can engage and contribute, this doesn't mean that all have to be in the spotlight. So this is something that actually we need to also always share with women, because many women, they say, yes, I would like to help, but I don't want to be, the one who will be the speaker. So we really, we can engage with all women. There are always ways, and you can share your opinion, and you don't have to be actually too much in the spotlight if you don't like it. But of course, those that want to be in the spotlight, we are here to support. And I would like to ask you a last question. So actually, what do you think that, what kind of challenges you face currently in the Netherlands? I know you are still, let's say, a minority among the majority of men, but do you see any challenges currently?
Yeah, the challenge we face in the Netherlands now is, I think, the same as a challenge in all fall chapters, is to implement inclusive behavior for everyone in everything we do. And only then will we become a diverse political movement, what we want to be. And then we will be able to realize our values and bring about change. So not for the sake of the rules, we have parity, but for the sake of our values. So I think that needs to be stressed, and also by our board, that diversity is much broader, but we have to stick to our values. And we had this discussion about parity in the latest discussions in the Netherlands for the city elections. And we are very glad that we stick to the values well, now we only will be there in 10 cities instead of 30, but we are, well, already praised for the fact that we are not pragmatic, but we are principled. And I think we should go for that, because this is the ultimate goal. We want to make a change, so we have to build our politics on the values we express.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. I think I know it's very nice talking to you, and we could still talk really for a very long time. And I hope we will have the opportunity to talk another time. And I just want to make a small advertisement to those that will join us or that are already members. We are organizing a big women's retreat. Hopefully the pandemic will allow us in March. So at the occasion of the International Women's Day, we will have an opportunity to continue this conversation, to provide you training, and to talk to you and to get to know you better. So I really would like to thank you for all the support that you are giving us, providing us to the European level, because you are the strongest chapter, and we could only organize this event because there are many women that joined us and supported us today. So thank you very much once again for the conversation, and all the best. And we wish you many elected women and many involved women as well involved Netherlands. Thank you once again.
Thank you for the opportunity, and well, let's keep connected.
I see perhaps there are questions.
And indeed, there is a question from Sietske Valk from the Netherlands. And Marian, the question is as follows. Why do you think women leave the party quicker than men?
Yes, I think that politics, like a lot of organizations that are, invented by men, that they made the rules, the customs, the culture. And for women, it's hard to fit in if you don't adapt to the existing rules. So I think it should be a two-way change. We as women have to step in, and once in, we have to, well, try to change the culture. But also we need the men, and that's what I think is one of the biggest challenges now, is not to fix the women, but fix the system. And that we have to try to make men our allies in realizing gender equality in politics and all other, well, important issues in society. So I think it's sometimes hard for women, and that's one of the issues that we are focusing now on, to empower the women, not to become as the man, but to become strong as a woman.
Marcella, is this also a phenomenon and Volt Europe as a whole? Or is this something special to the Netherlands, that women leave the party earlier than men or don't stay long enough?
I don't know if women are really living that earlier, if that would be a phenomena, but I think women very often have more obstacles, let's say. They are busy, they always focus more on other things, on the family. Family is, I think, very important for women. And sometimes they just simply let's put it this way, it's quite a competitive environment. In majority of men, and as Marian already said, it's very difficult for some women to adapt. And if you are always, let's say, I remember when I joined, I was the only woman in the room with men. And if you dare to disagree, it's sometimes very hard. So it might discourage a lot of women, this kind of environment, as long as it's not really balanced, because they are very comfortable. The men are very comfortable when they are talking, but when a woman disagrees, they very often judge her, and it might be very difficult for some women to, if she's not, let's say, as a man, if she is a really female, more sensitive, it might be difficult for her to really deal with these matters. So I think there are a lot of obstacles that women have to deal with. And that's the reason why we are talking about that we want to create a strong network to support women to deal with these difficulties and overcome them, to empower them, and to support them from all possible aspects, because this is what we need. We are still a minority, and we need to support those that really want to have their voices heard. And if we don't participate, we will never be able to change anything. So we must participate. We must tell what is on our heart. We must contribute to policies, and we must change them, because we are mothers, we are daughters, we are women that have a voice and that can share it. And if we don't share it, nothing will change in this world, and it will be still, the politics will be male. So really, we have to get united.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. There is one more question, and I think maybe that's for Marian, from Elisa Meloni. She's asking, how did you handle the gender quota fuss when Marica was elected instead of the third candidate was a male?
Yeah, that was amazing. There is this organization in the Netherlands that's called Stem op een vrouw. That means vote on a woman. And that's a very strong women's lib movement, and they advise voters to vote on the woman, which is the first woman under the expected number of elected candidates. And it worked well for Marieke, so she became in. That was not the biggest issue. Everyone was excited, and I think almost everyone was excited. At least the women were excited, but also a lot of men, because Marieke is also a great candidate. But the fuss of the parity in those city lists, these elections, the upcoming elections for March, that was a very big fuss. And I think we had men and women within Volt who really wanted to stick to our values and not leave the values just for the sake of the numbers. And I think that worked well, and we were praised for that by some women movements as well. Also, Stem op een vrouw was very excited that we did. So, well, this parity as a core value of Volt, we need to defend it, and change doesn't go fast. So if you leave the parity already after the first hurdle, then where are your principles? So we have to be actively promoting that.
Thank you so much for both of you. And I would like to present our next speaker, Ines Consonni. She's non-executive board member at Volt Europa. Professionally, she has multiple years of experience in consulting, editorial work, and project management. Ines, the floor is yours.
Thank you for that very nice introduction. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and joining Volt Europa in this wonderful online event. And I want to thank once again for inviting me to be one of the speakers. So, since I was little, I was passionate about politics and history, and I was lucky enough to have a dad that fed that passion and that made sure I knew I could do anything and everything. As I grew up and engaged in politics, I felt misplaced and misunderstood. I was often invited not to voice my opinions because they said it is impolite to talk about politics when you're a girl, or nobody's listening. People laughed and mocked my dreams and recommended me to go and do something better with my life. I learned that politics in Europe had no space for me. So what I did is that I went into the world determined to be the best that I could be, to learn as much as possible, to be as an active citizen as possible, to keep growing and learning and to travel, to make my mistakes and failures and understand that this will be a part of my success when it comes. My struggle can be described with tears, anger, indignation, but also a sense of hope and passion for what I wanted to do and the person I wanted to become to do it. I decided to carve my own space in politics, as many women and girls had done before me. I could not be here without a community of women that have given their lives to educate, empower, and support the next generation of young female leaders. Now that I'm here today, I see that the fight is far from over. Women and girls in politics are held to unrealistic expectations and standards and are scrutinized on every little thing they do. And have to work harder and be better, sometimes just to be listened or to be given the respect that they are entitled to. When you step up in becoming a leader, make it in your own terms. Because what does not work is a sexist society that tries to tell women and girls in the public spotlight who they should be and how they should behave. When I joined Volt, I was very much in the process of finding my voice as a woman in politics, and I'm still in it. Today, I am here to tell you that what makes Volt a different party and organization is that we do not hide from the challenge of making politics inclusive, diverse, and equal. Any organization can say, oh, but we are these things, or we are trying. Volt Europa is actually working to become it, because we recognize the challenge and take it seriously. I want to conclude by saying that when we engage in the big debate of women in politics, we have to remember that we are not all speaking from the same place. I had the privilege, as my mom says, to be able to study, have feminist role models in teachers, friends, and mentors, and having opportunities to travel and study where I wanted. I also have had access to safe and free sexual and reproductive health care. This is not the reality for many women and girls in Europe. As I speak to you from Poland, this reality weighs heavily on my mind every day. So, when we lift women and girls up to actively participate in politics, let's make sure we lift all women and girls up. So when we look around, politics is truly representative of the extraordinary and brave women and girls that we have across Europe. To all women and girls listening, you have a voice. Do not let anyone take it away from you. And you have a voice that matters. Do not let anyone make you feel otherwise. Thank you very much.
Ines, thank you so much for your touching and valuable contribution. It was really great. And now I would like to introduce to you all our next speaker, Nita Bouwman. She's from the Netherlands, member and also Ambassador Inclusion and Diversity at the Dutch Women Council. Nita's story is very 1984, when I was already traveling to New York nations. Nita was born in a very poor area in Calcutta in India. And she has some people, first in India, raised with love and her handicap. But she has become a dedicated for people without a higher education level. The lowest intelligence thresholds should become lower.
Ja, dan komt de volgende punt. De selectie van de kandidatenschap worden eerlijker beoordeeld worden. Met steun voor de mensen met een beperking alvorens de sollicitatieprocedures. Met aandacht op het VN-verdrag handicap en artikel 1.
Application and selection procedures related to job vacancies should have a more transparent description. Selection should be done in a more just manner with more support for people with a disability.
Zelf blijven. We willen zien dat we ook... Nee, sorry. Anders willen we zien naar hun... Sorry. Er gaat iets fout. Ik bedoel dus dat er altijd een politiek iets is voor mensen met beperking. Als ze zeggen van ja, maar... Dat wil ik dus niet meer horen. Of nee, dat kan niet, terwijl ze nog niet geprobeerd hebben. Dat is ook een van mijn punten.
And let's abandon traditional political expectations and routines. Don't let yourself to be silenced. Stay yourself and be proud of who you are.
En dan mijn wens is dat ik alle mensen gelukkig wil zien worden. Dat zij zich nuttig voelen worden. Dat het zeer van belang is dat de inclusie ook een leiderschap krijgt. Waar mensen op kunnen bouwen en vertrouwen. Zodat zij ook het recht hebben om op goede zorg, politieke aandacht, veiligheid, duidelijkheid en eenvoudigheid. Met rust, eenheid en regelmaat in onze samenleving. Zo houden wij iedereen in toon.
My wish is to see people being happy and that they feel useful. It is of great importance that leaders embrace inclusion in a way that people can rely upon them and receive the right for good care, political attention, security, clarity, with regulated structures for the satisfaction of everybody involved.
Daarom wil ik mij heel graag aansluiten bij onze strijd aan voor meer inclusieve en een democratische EU.
This is the reason why I would like to join our struggle for a more inclusive and democratic European Union.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nita. I am really proud of you. The next speaker is Kathrine Richter. And I'm really very proud to introduce her, as she's from Denmark. And when I was young, I lived for 5 years in Denmark. So I really love the place. Kathrine is co-president of All Denmark, candidate for the European elections 2019. And she has studied history and nationalism. And when Brexit happened and Trump got elected, she turned to politics. In May 2018, she joined Volt. Kathrine, please present your presentation.
Well, thank you, everyone. And again, thank you so much for organizing this, bringing about so many different voices to this issue is important, not only to show each other that we exist. One of the things that keep occurring, I think, when it comes to talking about politics and inclusion, it is the understanding that we do belong in the public conversation, and that we are responsible as well for shaping the public conversation. and that we need to, much more than we do right now, support each other. I am from Denmark, as you've pointed out, and we certainly have had strong positions on equality, perhaps so strong that some would argue that we don't need quotas, that we've already achieved equality in a number of different areas. And the truth is, we may talk about equality, but we also have to experience the equality. And one of the things I really remarked on from one of the previous presentations was the issue of empathy, but also the issue of principles, of living your principles, not only being pragmatic, but living your principles. Because being authentic and being true to yourself is probably the greatest political power you can have. Not only is it a shortcut to being honest and transparent, it also really increases the trust that people have in each other. And if there's one thing that we women know, it is that everybody always tells us who we should be. So I'm not surprised if we find it difficult to find a political voice, because should this be a different voice? Should we be different to whom we are at home? Should we be different in politics than whom we are with our families or our friends? The truth is, of course, that we should not. We should be as we are wherever we are. And that is a difficult thing to learn, because the majority of us will have grown up in a time when politics is divisive, but we've also grown up in a time where politics have become divisive. The polarization of politics, the block structure of politics, this is not an old phenomenon. This is a very recent phenomenon, and something that we're still learning how to tackle. We're dealing with a public discourse which loves the dichotomy, the opposition, the disagreement. But if you look at the desire by many people, it is to get along. It is to find common and shared solutions, not disagree. And as to why some women leave Volt, it's because we want to achieve things and do things. I think it can be very difficult if we don't feel the progress that we want to achieve. And this is where we all come in handy. We have to believe that being in a political party like Volt is very different than being in a normal old type party. And the reason I say this is because there is no boundary to what you can engage yourself in. If you like to discuss recycling in Italy, you can do that. If you want to help equality issues in Poland, you can do that. If you want to fight for economic development in France, you can do that. Your passion can help other people propel a new future. And so I'm grateful for being here, because it reminds me of how amazing this organization is. This very young organization. You've all heard that people have joined this organization 2, 3, 1 year ago. It's not because we are new to politics. It's because this organization is very new. So I really want to leave you with the encouragement to not only know that you have a voice, which so many people already have said, but know that you can be yourself involved. In fact, it's encouraged to be yourself involved. And I really hope to see many signups, and I hope to see many subscribers, even just following our social media channels. Please do that. It's a good way to get started. And you've now met so many wonderful people who are ready to take questions and stand by to hear your ideas for your future. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you too, Kathrine. Wonderful. Thank you so much. The next speaker is Xenia Economidou. She's from Cyprus, a freelance journalist and also communications coordinator. And as I said, member of Volt Cyprus. Xenia, please start.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, for the invitation. I was always a person with strong opinions about equality and equity in society. Coming from a small patriarchal society, I often felt frustrated and wanted to bring about change. I strongly believe that politics determines our lives. Therefore, we should take it all very seriously and be actively involved in it. My involvement in politics is through journalism, is to stress the importance of gender equality, to remove the stereotypes against women, the unification of women towards this goal, and to empower women to learn to respect themselves and demand equal rights. Gender inequality is most pronounced in the domain of power, as women are severely underrepresented in decision-making. Following the parliamentary elections of 2021, there are only 8 female MPs out of total of 56 members in the House of Representatives. Only 3 out of 11 ministers are women. As a journalist, my own domain is equally disappointing. The economic equality remains a challenge for women in Cyprus. The gender pay gap, for example, is currently at 10.4%. The labor market is segregated, with women concentrated in low-paying and less-value sectors. Gender inequalities in employment persist, despite the fact that more women than men in Cyprus are university graduates. 42 women were murdered by men in Cyprus between 2000 and 2021. From the age of 15, 1 in 5 women in Cyprus have experienced physical and/or sexual violence by a partner and/or non-partner. A big number of women experience violence mainly from their partners or their work superiors. A notable amount of women and young girls have been sexually abused, mainly by close related family. Victims experience fear, emotions of shame and stigmatization, and therefore avoid reporting the crimes. They are also afraid that society and the authorities will accuse them of provoking their perpetrators. Human trafficking is an international scourge with big profits in Cyprus as well. The main victims, again, are females. The Cyprus issue is discussed and the decisions are taken mainly by men. The substantial representation of women in decision-making is extremely necessary. The full implementation of Resolution 1325, Women, Peace and Security, must be fully implemented in Cyprus, a country half occupied by the Turks. The full and effective representation of women in all sectors and at all levels of decision-making and their equal participation in the efforts made for the reunification of Cyprus is very important. Studies and research have shown that when women are involved in peace processes, agreements made are 35% stronger and they are likely to last more than 15 years. And my last, the education system should build its curriculum towards the necessity of gender equality and the benefits of equality from both genders. It should explain through various actions the damages of the patriarchal model and the necessity to abandon it. Empower society to understand the significance of equality and for the whole population. Empower women to be more actively involved in politics and change laws and legislations towards a fairer society, to demand fairness and equal treatment. Thank you very much. The easiest path to achieve change is through the empowerment of women and their active involvement in politics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Xenia. It was really very, very touching. And our last speaker is Rebeca Steingraber Gradissimo. She was born in Lisbon. She has a master in theater and performing arts, PhD in contemporary and modern history, and she is vice president at Volt, Portugal. Please take the floor.
Thank you very much for having me. I had so many things to share with you, but I share one of the things that Kathrine also spoke about, how important it is to be yourself in politics. Not to wear a mask and to hide yourself into something that you're not. People recognize it, and if they feel empathy, you are able to get much more further in your way as a politician, in my opinion. I remember just small stories. I lived in Azores for many years when I was a child. And I remember that one of the things that I lived in a very safe place. I mean, Azores, if you can imagine, we are talking about the 90s. There was a lot of inequality between girls and boys at school. And I started quite early to feel that injustice between the genders. So I started to fight against it and put myself into a role that later on I became class speaker. And then suddenly there was a blank for my active person, protecting the unjust and the ones that were in need to be protected, as girls that were suffered violence and all those kind of events. It's quite of, when I speak about it, it's very personal, because I see myself, a friend of my friends that were not able to play with me because I was white, because I was from a rich family, because I was a Protestant and they were Catholics. So I didn't have many friends because of that too. They were not very happy that somebody with modern views were playing with me. So I also had very early this kind of issues of difference between the genders, and the girls were not able to play with the boys. I was always playing football, so I was always a front runner and a modern girl in a period of the 90s in Azores. After this, I started to study drama because I want to change society through theater. And this was a step that got me closer to politics. Theater and culture is a mechanism for introducing politics and democracy in a society. After this period of studying and doing my master's, getting close to directors that fought against communists and dictatorships, I was impelled to see it as an instrument against injustice. Then in 2018, I met Volt and I started to decide to join. I always had a big passion for speeches, and I always saw also the importance of humor in politics, this kind of humor that builds empathy and connections with people, with the public, people that elect you, the people that believe in you, and also with your colleagues. As I share also a view that I'm not sure, I think was, one of those speakers were telling about a story that was similar with mine with Volt. When I first time met Volt was at a dinner and I was the only woman. I did not felt strange because living in Portugal, it was normal that a woman being surrounded for so many men, with so many men in a place that talks about politics. So I did not felt uncomfortable and I didn't found it strange, unfortunately. So it was it was step by step. I started to join more and more the activities, and well, now I'm vice president. I'm very happy that they invited me to do this role. I was very active in everything that I was able to do. I was practically the only face of the womanly face from Volt Portugal at the beginning, and it was very time consuming. But I will never forget one of the words of Ana Gomes, that a person that I admire a lot, to a famous Portuguese politician, similar as Angela Merkel, similar generation. She says that politics is an act of citizenship. So that's one of the reasons that compelled me also to be part of it. Now that I'm vice president, I've got a lot of responsibilities. To be honest, I'm very happy to be part of this event, of your event, but we are being very busy with building up the programs and conflict resolutions inside of the party. It has been kind of a roller coaster because we were not expecting to be in the elections. One of the things that I also wanted to share with you was, as when I was a candidate on the local elections, one of the things that happened was my colleague, my fellow colleague, he's a good friend, but when we were doing the campaign on the streets, he was saying the older ladies, especially the older ladies and older men, you should vote for her. She has such a pretty face. She's so nice. And I was like thinking for myself, no, it's not. I've got something more to give to you than just my pretty face and my beautiful smile. But I didn't want to interrupt him because I knew that's a selling point still in Portugal if you are a woman and if you are in politics. So I never really spoke with my friend about the situation, but I know exactly what he would say. He would say, yes, I'm sorry, but it's the way things work here in politics, here in Portugal. So it was an awkward moment, a strange moment, but I think it's still seen as normal, as that you are being sold as a pretty face with a nice smile, and that's why you are trustworthy and people should vote for you. So that's what I wanted to share with my experience as a candidate. There's a lot needs to be done. I'm part of the women's group too. We are starting to be more and more active. I think we're around 15 to 20% now women here in Portugal in the party, but still a lot needs to be done. And I think the biggest struggle is really to balance politics with your work, not only with your family, of course, your personal life. And if you're an artist like me, I'm not just only a drama teacher, I also direct plays. So I also start working at night. So it's a complicated balance. And I think that's one of the reasons that probably also some women don't continue this kind of process in politics. And that's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been really nice, your story. And I have to admit, I made a huge mistake because we have, of course, one more speaker, and that's Gina Niesser. She is Lidwold candidate for the North Rhine-Westphalia elections. She's a PR and communications expert, worked professionally at Radio Wuppertal and at other places. And Gina, I'm so sorry. I hope you are still here. I would like to give the floor to you.
I'm still here. Thank you so much, Suzanne.
Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely no problem. Yeah, I think that's due to the point that it was a bit spontaneous for me, but I'm so glad that you asked me, and I'm really happy to be here. And I must say, all of your stories, they were really touching, and I'm so glad that we're here involved, we share our stories, and that we are here for each other. So yeah, I'm Gina. I'm from a town in Germany called Wuppertal, and yeah, I'm running for the North Rhine-Westphalian elections. It's like, yeah, regional elections in the western of Germany. But yeah, I'm a part of Volt since a little bit over a year now, and my road to Volt wasn't like a straight way. I think there are people that have maybe one event and they think, okay, now I need to engage in politics. But for me, it wasn't like that. I grew up in a really safe space. Everything was fine. We didn't have the world, but we definitely had enough. And Germany, it's a safe place, so everything was fine. In Germany, we say something like, viele Tropfen bringen irgendwann das Fass zum Überlaufen. You all know, like, what is she talking about? In English, the translation is, many small drops eventually make the barrel overflow. And that for me was like with politics. These drops for me especially were, on the one hand, the climate crisis. I just couldn't understand how thousands of people all over the world were demonstrating and like screaming at politicians saying, we have a global warming, this is a crisis. And what politics does is nothing, well, not enough to stop the climate crisis. On the other hand, I lived as an au pair for 1 year in Great Britain, and I had the best time. I found like a second family, and yeah, England became my second home, and then Brexit happened. And one thing that really shocked me was, you all know what I'm talking about with George Floyd, when a white policeman was kneeling on his neck for 9.5 minutes and he died. And for me, all these drops made me wake up and think, I need to do something. But at that time, I was working as a journalist alongside my studies, earning some money. I was working at a radio station, and all was really fine because I was really interested in people and their stories, and to tell them on the radio was great. But as a journalist, you're only reporting the stories, and you can't change anything with a radio report that only takes 1 minute and 30 seconds. And that really led to frustration for me. And what do we do when we're frustrated? We're talking to a good friend. And that's what I did. And I talked with a really good friend of mine and telling her about all these crises, and I couldn't understand why we're not acting. And she tells me about a party that's running for local elections in Düsseldorf, another town in Germany, that combines all these topics on a European level. That was Volt. And yeah, we took Volt to Wuppertal, to my hometown, because I think the local areas, that's where we're really strong. And why is that? I think people need to see what politics is all about. And where do we see that? On the local level. That's where people really see, what do political decisions do to my everyday life? And especially for women, what we try to do is, for example, in our German elections this summer, is to especially talk to women on the streets. When we're doing the campaign and we're on the streets, especially talk to women and make them engage in politics. And I think one of you were also saying that we need to communicate different. And that's what we can do on the local level. And yeah, now I'm working in the PR team in Volt, Germany. And I was thinking, with this experience from our German elections, okay, I want to run as a candidate myself. But to be honest, I didn't have the confidence to run for a lead position. So I thought, okay, let's just do it small. I do it in my hometown, in my comfort zone. And what then happened is I had a really great team, women and also men, that said, no, you can do better. And I thought, well, there are people that are more experienced, that are smarter, that are just better for this role. And then I think this is the point where empowerment really happens. And I'm really glad that I could experience that in Volt, that we have people that say, you are enough with what you are, and try to give your best, and you can do it. So that really, really gave me hope. And I said, okay, I'm just trying it. And now I'm really happy that I did it. And I only did it because there were people believing in me and also telling me that. And what I want to share with you is that I truly believe that it's so necessary to tell each other that we are enough, to tell each other what we think, what maybe the person doesn't really know about her or himself, that we really empower each other to go one step further and to aim for higher goals that sometimes we ourselves, we can't believe that we can achieve. Thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you in the breakout rooms.
Fantastic. Thank you as well. And now, before we break into the breakout sessions, we have about 5 minutes of intermission. Maybe it's advisable that you stay logged in. Just keep your computer on and have a glass of whatever. And and then we come back in 5 minutes. And if it's true, then we just have to click on a button, join, and we will be in the breakout rooms. So, okay, so bye-bye. See you in 5 minutes. welcome you all back from the breakout sessions. I have heard that they were very interesting. So let's see what are the takeaways. Marcella, could you please summarize yours?
Yes, I will just say a couple of points that strike my mind and I think were very important. So when we got into the smaller session, we immediately started talking about this, that the opportunity that when women have can talk together in a really smaller group, they feel more relaxed. So the 101 or let's say smaller setting is more comfortable for women to express themselves.
Recording in progress.
We were talking about that sometimes politics is not made
recording stopped.
Always for women in terms of time. So there are sometimes women have to go late in the evening to some, let's say, events, or there are the debates in the parliament until very late night. And we were saying that politics has to adapt also to women. Why we cannot have timing that also suits women. And then I was also sharing a little bit my story, how it was when I was running for elections, and that actually we cannot do politics without having a support of men. And in our session, we also had one man that came and joined our event because he said he feels very sad that there are not more men actually listening to women's stories, that we have so much to share. And he said that they were very actually emotional, very powerful, and he learns a lot in events like this. So I think men also need to listen to us. So these are some of the important aspects. Another aspect was guilt of women that are actually spending more time outside of their homes, leaving the family behind, if they feel guilty about it. So I was again referring to my own experience that I did feel guilty, and some people were judging me. And this is something that happens very often in politics, that actually people are judging women that are active in politics because they do spend some time outside of their homes without their families. But at the same time, I think if we balance this as female politician, I think we can make it, but we cannot do it without the support of our families and of our partners. So again, we are coming back to the support of men. So that's another aspect. Also, what came there, that women are very often shy, and also something that was very interesting, that people in our communities now are not very often, of course it's not, again, we cannot generalize, but people are not interested in politics. And women that were in our group felt like that they are maybe a minority that are interested in politics, but they can make a difference. They can make a difference with their voices. And I think together, if we are a movement, or also because people feel like that we cannot change politics, but politicians are changing our lives every day. So if we actually don't contribute to what is happening in politics, then we will not be able to influence, because they do take the bread from our tables, or they put the bread on our tables. They make the difference. So women must engage in politics. And this is something that we have been talking about in our breakout session.
Fantastic, very nice. Thank you so much. May I give the word to Francesca? Can you hear me, Francesca?
I can hear you.
Could you please summarize your breakout session?
I can do that. I actually, oh, sorry, I don't have my camera on because I was, sorry. I think it would be more fair, honestly, if my room members do it, because they did most of the talk. I was just listening. There was Gina Lara with me, and I forget the other name. So I'm just going to say some words, but then maybe they want to speak. So it was a very interesting and very, hands-on breakout session, speaking about like what do we do then concretely, you know, to attract more women, and what has been done in Nederland to attract more women. So starting with the challenges that we face, such as Lara, for example, she was highlighting that every woman we know is doing 2-3 roles. So this is super heavy. And of course, there is a lot of pressure in that. And I think that's a very sharp observation. So but then again, we went to the very practical thing that can be done to attract more women. So starting with the language that we use, but the suggestion that I like the most, honestly, and then again, I prefer if the others maybe have something to add, the suggestion that I prefer the most, because honestly, it's something that I've tried and then it proves to work, is to have a dedicated time for the woman joining. So really having a time to connect, because we have been anyway told, because the word is really not built for us in a way, that, you know, that we must feel insecure when entering politics. So really have a one-on-one dedicated time with the person who wants to join, simply to show the beauty and the normality of being active in politics as a woman. We're doing something extraordinary, but at the same time very normal. Politics is a place for a woman. So that was the suggestion that I like the most. If the others want to add something, I'm more than happy to give the word.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're very limited by time, so please excuse me, Francesca. I would like to go to the next breakout session. Nita, could you please summarize what you have experienced, and I will translate it into English.
Bedoel je van waar we net over hadden?
Ja, of wil jij dat ik een samenvatting doe, of wat is makkelijker?
Weet ik even zo gewoon niet. Over het onderwerp waar we in de groep over hadden?
Ja, dat klopt. Ja. Alleen maar wat in de groep besproken was.
Nou, in de groep is besproken over dat ik van plan ben om de gelijkwaardigheid binnen Volt te creëren door een ministerie op te zetten voor inclusie en diversiteit.
What we discussed in the group is, among others, my plan to create a ministry of inclusivity and diversity.
Waarin iedereen gewoon gelijk is, waarin iedereen recht heeft op een baan, waar iedereen goede zorg zou krijgen met goede inkomen, goede werkgelegenheid, met wonengelegenheid en dat de huizenprijzen betaalbaarder worden, ook voor de mensen die dat niet te kunnen permitteren, zeg maar. Ik vind het belangrijk dat we ook in coronacrisis dat de mensen die weinig geld hebben, of in ieder geval die ook thuis zitten, echt op een buffertje moeten hebben van het ministerie of in ieder geval van het kabinet, zodat ze makkelijker rond kunnen komen. En dat ze niet in problemen komen met psychische hulp of alleen voelen, zeg maar. Dus ik wil gaan regelen dat in ieder geval op lange termijn dan voor elkaar gaat komen.
So this ministry would be in charge of making sure that indeed there would be equality in societies, and that it would make it possible through its activities that people with disabilities and handicaps would be also able eventually to survive financially, so that such conditions would be in society that they can make a reasonable living, including, for example, being able to purchase homes, and the prices of housing would be reasonable, but also by other means. Well, thank you so much, Nita. Veel dank, Nita.
Yeah.
And now I would like to give the word to Ines.
Okay,
Ines,
thank you.
Ines, could you please summarize your breakout session?
So of course, I will keep it very short since we are short on time. But so it was unfortunately a short breakout session. I wish we had more time because we were discussing how to attract more women to join Volt. And that basically surrounded our discussion, how to do it, how to make women also stay. And I really wish my colleagues, if they want to add something more, because as Francesca said, they did most of the talking and they have loads of experience and interesting points. So yeah, the breakout rooms were great so that we can all listen to each other and learn more. I have found this event really amazing because of that, because I've learned so much. So thank you. That is very, very short.
Thank you so much for your kind words. Kathrine, is Kathrine around? Kathrine, could you please, oh yes, great. Could you please summarize your group?
Yes, I can indeed. We were a good group of 4 women, and basically onboarding and why do women drop out after perhaps a few meetings. That was quite a conundrum for us, because obviously we're still involved, but being able to balance your work life, your professional life, your private life, and also feeling that what you do in Volt serves your own ambitions and serve your own motivation. We discussed this because I think it is important to underline that Volt can seem very large. It is indeed a very large organization. So as a newcomer, it can be, overwhelming perhaps. And so it's very important to have more of a focus point on onboarding, perhaps more of a long-term onboarding strategy, and to make sure that there is a continuous focus point on, maintaining that contact and reevaluating the way that we onboard in general, that perhaps you're not just a contact person for the first 2 weeks or 2 months, you are perhaps a contact person for the first 12 months, to have a more continuous contact with different people, because signing up is one step, but then getting familiar is a second step. And that takes more than just a few minutes for the vast majority of new members. And we talked about this a lot.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you so much for your thoughts and input. Marian, you had a separate breakout room, right?
Yeah.
But may I ask you to give your takeaways?
Yeah, I will keep it shortly as well. A lot of points have already been made. We had a nice breakout session and we discussed the issue of a separate women-only meeting as we have now, the Volt of Europe women event now, and that there was a discussion on workplace that addressed a lot of men wanted to join, and that was not always a nice discussion. So we discussed the issue of men wanting to be part of the women's movement, but also men who do not understand the separation of women, which is quite an issue. Anyway, we discussed that next to the safe space we as a women need to be together and to discuss these issues. We also think, and we are convinced that we also need Volt broad events on D&I, diversity and inclusion as well, to make this issue also familiar to the man, so that we organize a he for she event, that also the men learn about themselves, their role, because we also found out in our breakout session that in teams, men are still very dominant, and also the 50-50 teams are dominated by men who take the words, speak the loudest, Usually we have meetings where most speakers are men. And I think that we as Volt should take notice of that as well, and that we should try to make also speakers list, parity on speakers list, as many women as men speak out. Well, that is a brief summary.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Xenia, would you like please to give some thoughts about your session?
We try to find ways on how we can increase female participation in politics. We need more policies of inclusion from Volt as well. Investment should be made in education, change of mentality, and empower women to be more active in politics. A big thanks to Lucia, Regine, and Lisa for the beautiful discussion. Thank you.
That was really well summarized. Thank you so much. Rebeca, may I ask you to reflect upon your breakout session?
Yes, I mean, I was in one breakout session, it was very short, and then suddenly I was with Kathrine. So I don't know what happened, but it was a pleasure to talk to her because we already met at the GA. I think the part of the onboarding, of course, was an important subject. We also talked about ways like organizing a women's group, as we have here in Portugal. Once in a month, we have a group only for women, where they can talk about several issues and build and discussing events to attract more women and to talk about women's issues. And then we also have a group of women in politics where we include the men, so we can together build policies according to the needs of the women and to include the men also. So this was what I can add to it, and it works. It works. I mean, at the moment we don't feel that the men think that's strange to have only a women's group. It's starting to be talked about it but it's easy to convince them to tell them that this group is still important to exist, because it's a safe space for us to empower ourselves and to give strength to each other.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Gina is here. Yes, hi, Gina. So
hi.
Please summarize.
I think most of it was said by Francesca, because we were also in the same group, and I think we're really good in time. So I just keep it with that.
Fantastic. Before we depart, please allow me to extend my great thanks to Marcella, because Marcella was the motor of this group preparing this event. She's really powerful, and she just goes for it. And then we can only follow efficiently. So it was a wonderful experience to work with her. I would also like to thank the other members of our team, Anne, who was sending out all the links and invitations, Maria, who had always fantastic and wise advice. Anne, could you just say, hi, I am here, so that people would see who you are? Hi, so this is Anne.
Hi.
And then
it was for me, I think, or whatever.
And Maria, can you please raise your voice, and then everybody can see you?
Hi, so I unmuted myself. You gave too much good words to me.
Oh, no. Maria, please show yourself as well. Where is? Yeah, there is Maria. Simone. Yeah, where is Simone? Cannot see Simone. Oh, yes, please. Yeah, because the thing reacts. And Sophie, where are you, Sophie? Where is she?
She's actually on the live stream. I think.
Oh, she's on the live.
Yeah. She's not here.
Okay.
But she will hear it, I think.
Okay. So this was our team preparing this event, and it was a great experience. And I really hope that we can stay in touch. So don't feel obliged, but if you feel like filling in our form, then please do it, because it would maybe help all of us. And last but not least, I would like to thank the technical team, because without them, we wouldn't have a live stream, we wouldn't have a Zoom, and we would have nothing. So thank you so much that was possible. And so I would like to say farewell to you. And as we say in Dutch, tot ziens. So hopefully we will see each other again.
Thank you, Susanne, for the moderation and everything else you did for the group.
So thank you so much. And yeah, we are looking forward to staying in touch. Also connect on LinkedIn and whatever. And it would be nice to stay a group because I think we do inspire each other. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.